Brainstorm, a comedy game design podcast by two guys who know nothing about comedy nor game design. My name is Trevor Scott, and I'm putting on a voice, and here is Ben Slinger as well.
It started off kind of ASMR, and then it went into, like, Muppet radio, maybe?
I don't know.
Anyway, yes. Hi, Trevor.
Hi.
What are we doing this week?
So we're going to actually go into some games that we played this weekend. Yeah, this weekend was the Global Game Jam, and these are games that were all made just this weekend.
Yep, so we have we've played through a bunch of the games from the Game Jam. So you probably won't have heard of these, but they're very these were sort of our pick of the Global Game Jam 2022. Mm-hmm. Definitely go and search for them.
They may be very hard to find because these are like...
these are some of the obscure... we sort of visited the underground Game Jam. It's kind of a little subculture of the main Global Game Jam.
Yeah.
And this is like... It's like the
where all the cool kids
web.
hang out. Where all the cool kids hang out. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's just what it is.
So, Trevor, I think you had the first game that we played that we were going to talk about.
Yep. Amish Fury.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a good one. I think it was a team of just 2 or 3 people who put this one together. And
I don't really see how they got the theme in, but it was still fun. Like, you start off with the barn building, of course. Like, that's pretty typical, but then really takes a
well, it takes a turn
turn.
because... It goes very meta because you do build the barn and there's a whole kind of nice 3D system of building up the barn. You can choose colours and different things, but then, you know, as we know, generally the Amish don't forget use
you
technology.
Can also choose beard lengths and all those sort of things.
Oh yeah, there's a great sort of character creator and stuff in there. The Amish generally, I mean, I don't know that this is entirely accurate, but in popular culture, the whole thing with the Amish is they don't use modern technology. And so when the people in the game realize that they are in a computer game, it gets very meta because it's against their religion to be involved.
It's all about the fury that they go after the game.
They get very angry.
/ developers.
Yeah, so it becomes this real meta exploration of using, you know, digital games and how they fit into the world and particularly within the Amish community.
I thought they used volumetric clouds in the most innovative way. Like, it felt like when you know, the sun was rising and you could see, you know, all the fog in front of the barn and all this sort of stuff, and it was just...
Well, and just the way they tied it into the gameplay as well, like that, the way that the fog really hid the Amish people as they were hunting you.
Yeah.
And, you know, you just get a glimpse of beard or a glimpse of, you know, petticoat amongst that fog. Just worked really well.
Yeah, you heard the horse whinnying, and then out of the fog came you know, a horse and carriage that just, you know, took out those developers in that final scene.
Yeah, I've got shivers right now thinking like it gets spooky for having been done in a weekend.
And they got like a good 20 minutes of gameplay in there. Like,
yeah, I don't know how they managed it. Yeah. I mean, I know that in the deep dark web game jams, they use some sort of dodgy tools and things that maybe give them a leg up, but
yeah. I mean, I heard that there were some people this weekend that used like a video game name generator and just clicked the button and they got some names, and that's how they came up with the game.
That's one way to come up with game designs, I guess, but we wouldn't stoop that low. So anyway, let's talk about the next game. Chocolate Mushroom Dancers was a highlight of the jam.
Definitely. I mean, the duality of chocolate and mushroom, you know, two tastes that really shouldn't go together, and they become best friends. Like,
yeah, I think that's definitely where they where they brought the theme into it. What I was really impressed with was the physics on those chocolate fountains. Mm-hmm. The mushrooms would like walk through, or you could control the mushrooms through it. Like it was purely dynamic. And then they would end up with that chocolate, coating before coming out onto the stage. Just visually a feast.
What did you think about the side plot about the termites taking out the stage?
I mean, for one, again, impressed that they got that much depth of plot in there in a weekend.
But, Hero was coming in expecting a dancing game and all about the dancing, but after each dance, you had a little bit more of that side story of the termites and what they were going through taking out this stage. I
think what they were going for is it was almost a second layer of duality in there, because under the stage, it was the musty, dank dirt where mushrooms usually grow. Yeah. Right? And so it's kind of these mushrooms are using the chocolate to kind of propel themselves up onto the stage, into the limelight, into the spotlight, and be more than they usually are. And these termites were trying to bring them back down to and put them in their place. And, they were the villains. They were the villains of the piece in that way. Cause
I suppose the only thing I didn't like was the janky controls. Like...
Yeah, that's true. They didn't really get the rhythm stuff working. It didn't feel good.
It looked amazing, but it didn't feel as tight as what I wanted it to.
Yeah, it definitely felt like you could sort of lose without knowing why.
But then again, I did notice that things got worse for chocolate as they melted, because those lights were incredibly hot, and the fact that they got the melty physics working so well, it makes me wonder whether that was intentional. The fact that...
Yeah, it could be. And I mean, that kind of plays into the theme as well around, once you're in that spotlight and people are watching you, the facade you've put on, can't last forever. And eventually it melts away and all you've got left is who you actually are. So in that case, the janky controls are pretty genius.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe that we came around on that so quickly. The fact that...
I just hadn't thought of it in those terms.
Yeah. Sometimes we need to sit down and talk about these things before we bring it in front of everyone and don't have to go through like this.
Well, you know what, though? I feel like our audience appreciates the honest emotions that come from just
and
discussion
the journey that we go on. It's as if we're coming up with this on the spot, but we're not.
We would never.
Another food-related one now. Pathetic ice cream versus Capcom. Like a fighting game. In the vein of Street Fighter versus Capcom, and it was just...
Yeah, well, I feel like these guys must have shared the melty physics with the other team, or at least maybe they used the same package or something. Because the way those drips came off the ice creams, as Hadouken hit them.
I've got to say, it was weird that all the Capcom's finisher moves was just to eat the ice cream. Like,
I mean, it did make sense when you're fighting against a food item. It was an interesting choice as well, and I guess this maybe is because they ran out of time, but that most of the time, instead of fighting Capcom characters, they had you fighting just this big guy called Captain Com.
Yes.
Who I think is an original character.
He looked very similar to that old, like, Captain Comic guy from the MS-DOS game from many years ago.
You're right. I think that must have been what they were going for. I can't believe they didn't make that connection. That was, like, one of my favourite games when I was a kid.
Yes. And if you haven't played it, like, Captain Comic is like, incredible.
Oh, yeah. That's a game that we actually definitely didn't make up and is a real game that is out there that you should go and play.
Yes.
I know that sounds really ambiguous, but it is.
Very ambiguous. But anyway.
I
didn't like... I also didn't like the... do you call it cannibalism if ice cream eats other ice cream? It kind of...
Well, and it's interesting because is it just a swirl then? Like, because the mouth was on the cone... And then it's the ice cream, but doesn't that just make the ice... Like, is that just like how they get the chocolate center in the cone?
Incorporating the ice cream into like the mega ice cream that you end up coming up against as a Capcom player in the end.
Yeah. I'm not sure whether... I mean, I don't think we should be reading too much into this one. Unlike the last game, I don't think they were trying for anything deeper than just, it's funny to have ice cream fight something. But yeah, that was an interesting thing around the cannibalistic ice creams.
Yeah, maybe it's a duality thing of, what happens if you combine two ice creams and,
you get better ice cream. I mean...
Yeah.
The game shows
obviously.
That.
Yeah. What was your next highlight?
Yeah. Well, I definitely
played so many games.
I definitely wanted to talk about cybernetic STD in my pocket. So this
was a fun one.
So I think, and they definitely took some inspiration from like Pocket Monsters, like the Pokemon kind of thing. Because it was sort of this card collecting or this collecting game. It wasn't technically on cards. It was on like little USB sticks and stuff. Because they were cybernetic, and you could plug them into things. But you were collecting these little things, and they obviously went for. So there's a weird thing here because STD doesn't stand for sexually transmitted disease in this case.
No. Standard transmission device.
Yeah, exactly. Which was sort of a generic name, but a lot of them were named very closely to STIs.
Yes,
and STDs. I don't know if they just couldn't decide. They didn't want to make it clear. They were trying to make it, not too obvious. But like when you come up against the chlamydia-X. It's kind of pretty clear.
Yeah. Especially that boss battle against his peas.
Yeah, that was kind of an obvious one. But, I mean, this one, look, I wanted to bring it up because it was just so out there. It was kind of gross. Really, like...
It was, but it was funny.
It was funny. It was funny for a few moments, and... Look, the gameplay, like, they put a lot of work into the stats of these things and the way that they sort of work together. And there was...
I really liked the fact that there was, like, that deck. Every time that you went into a battle, you had that little animatic of all the USBs being plugged into the deck.
Yeah.
And...
That was really cool. And that's sort of how you decide on who you're playing with in this stage, is you get that nice little thing of, plugging in your little USBs.
Which means that you can hot swap. Like, sometimes you could actually just take out like a USB stick that wasn't.
Yeah, well, they were
wasn't
fun.
in use and switch to another.
I very much liked the physicality of that. Where if you're
we haven't said this yet, but it's a VR game.
Yeah. So you got to physically plug the little USBs.
The USBs in,
and they sort of played out the thing in front of you. And what I liked is when they got hit by certain, particularly the short circuit attacks, is they could just it'd just pop out. The USB would just pop out as they were defeated, and then you were able to.
I was in the middle of a battle.
In
the middle of a battle, right? And they did that. They did that whole attack that the USB pops out, but that was the next character I was trying to swap to, and of course, you got the time limit to actually swap. And I swear, I tried the USB one way and didn't fit in, and I switched it around the other way, and I tried putting it again. It still didn't work, and I switched it around again. They got that 3-time turn working well within the game.
Yeah, they made that a gameplay mechanic. That was... I mean, that's just clever. That's just smart and funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
But not as funny as Cantankerous Spelling Blaster.
That one, yeah. That was a solo dev, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Obviously, though, they were angry at spelling bees and all this sort of stuff, and basically it was sort of angry words, kind of typing of the dead style, but set in a spelling bee and just,
well, what I found...
used typing to actually fight against other people.
What I found funny was that you had to hold down shift, You had to make sure you're holding down shift while you typed all the words. To be
there was no caps lock in
them.
this
You
thing.
couldn't use caps lock. You had to hold down shift, which sort of just added to the, like, I'm yelling at you, kind of like it just added that extra thing. Everyone's angry.
Oh, did you realise that you can, when you got the power up, you could hold down double shift? And
that's how you were getting those bigger words.
Yes.
See, I feel I don't think that was one thing they didn't quite get enough time, I think, to polish the UI to really give you a sense of some of the features.
I think that was just a like Easter egg. They're like, what happens if you double shift it?
I mean, that is the sort of thing that in a jam you'd throw in last minute.
Yeah. Last minute is like, just increase the font size. Like,
well, but I did love how the size of the words then was obviously affecting their mass as they became physical objects.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's the beauty about the Unreal Engine, though. Like, they obviously used that text to 3D thing that you can use in there, whereas Unity doesn't have something like that, but Unreal actually has it almost out of the box. It's just a plug-in, and they just gave it so much mass, and, like, it was crushing the stage. And some of those people in front of you.
Yeah, like, I know. I loved like the ragdolling on people as if those letters happen to fly off into the audience, you're just taking people out left and right.
Yeah.
But you don't care because you're angry.
Yeah.
It's never really made clear what you're angry about, but it kind of doesn't matter.
No. You're in a spelling bee, and obviously the guy up in the booth is really, really angry because he's just yelling words at people. Like, spell Cantankerous.
Yeah, and then you have to...
That's the name of the game, like, C-A-N-T-A. Like, it's just like, it's so easy to do because it's the name of the game and it's always at the top. But it's always the first word.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of just sets the tone.
But then again, the idea that you actually had to type in Cantankerous Spelling Blaster to start the game was kind of ingenious. It's telling you that this game is about spelling.
Well, and I found it funny that in the way that they did it, where they had that written on the screen and then there was just a big flashing cursor.
Yeah.
No other instructions. But, like, I thought that was clever. Like, that's cool. Just
I tried start.
You tried typing start.
Typing start, and it didn't work. I tried typing settings, and nothing came up. But I typed in credits, and that's when, like, it went through, like, a single, because it was only the one guy that did it.
Yeah.
It just went, like, a single credit of everything done by this guy.
Yeah.
And it just went.
Just a quick up little thing. Like, you're good at finding those little Easter eggs in these games. Yeah. So another one that I liked, and this one kind of had just great animation and graphics. Again, Sleepy Gopher, the Resistance.
Oh, yes.
Kind of a bit of a... Funnily, you'd think it's like a tongue-in-cheek name, but this took itself
This Gopher was pretty sleepy.
Well, it just took itself deadly serious. And yes, the Gopher was literally sleepy.
Had like one of those little nightcaps on, had a glass of milk the entire game, a warm glass of milk. You could see the sting coming off it.
So yeah, it was funny, but it didn't lampshade its funniness. Like, it didn't sort of go, hey, I'm a funny game. It's just, here's a sort of bizarre situation. This, classically sleepy Gopher walking through as this, like, resistance army is fighting back against the government.
Yeah.
And, kind of accidentally helping out along the way in these big events without even realizing.
Yeah. Kind of almost like a Mr. Bean sort of thing, because, I mean, really, a lot of the story was him just trying to find his bear.
Yeah.
Like, that's all he wanted. Like, his little stuffed bear. He couldn't go to sleep without. Yeah,
and so he'd get, pointers from character to character, sending him off in different directions, saying, yeah, I'm pretty sure your bear went that way, or whatever, and then you'd end up going there, and it's like, who are you coming to talk to Captain Bear? Are you reporting for duty? It's like,
I got a very Saving Private Ryan vibe from the whole thing. Like, you could tell that all these people, they kept on joining his crew as it went. Like, and they're just like, suppose I'll join along with you just to make sure that you don't die out there. And
well, and I think, and in some cases, and the writing was really smart, actually, like, these characters along the way joining Sleepy Gopher's cause, thinking that he is part of this resistance. When
in reality is
he just wants to find his bear, find some warm milk, and go to sleep.
Well, he's already found the raw milk because that was found in the title sequence.
Well, yeah, but then
he's got to keep topping it up.
You got to, as you wake up, as things wake you up, then you need to get yourself your sleep levels.
I've got to say, he had some pretty good resistance though. Resistance to sleep. Like he should have fallen asleep during that game. Like, I mean, only for 25
to be
minutes.
Fair, there were a lot of like shootouts and rescue missions going on around him at the same time, even if he wasn't actually paying attention to them.
I mean, the duality of trying to fall asleep and stay awake at the same time. It's that juxtaposition of keeping that fine line. So as soon as you find your bear, you can fall asleep.
As soon as you find your bear, you can fall asleep. But, if you have to, topple a corrupt government to do it, then so be it. Yeah. It was a good one.
It was. Was it as good as Inept Sailor Nitro?
I mean, they're so different.
The water physics in Inept Sailor Nitro was just...
So, I did like Inept Sailor Nitro, and it's true, the water physics were really well done. The way that they implemented the mechanics around being an inept sailor, though, I saw what they were going for.
I mean, the fact that they made a multiplayer game a la your Sea of Thieves, except everyone is just trying to sabotage the boat. Like, it's just... But trying to sabotage it in such a way that you don't realise they've sabotaged it because they're just inept.
Well, and there was definitely those sort of Among Us vibes to it in that way where you could... and this is kind of what I mean by the ineptness, because you had to ride, and this is, I guess, where they were bringing duality into it, but like, you're either the actual saboteur or you're just inept. But either way, you're messing things up. And sort of, I feel like they didn't get the difference between that well, and like, it didn't quite get that balance right.
I know. I played a match this weekend. Sure, we had to use bots because no one's playing it. But, I played a match and I'm like, I swear I cannot tell who is supposed to be the saboteur along with me, because that's the one thing. Like, they had two saboteurs and two inept sailors, and like the fact that they don't let the saboteur know who else is a saboteur means you gotta keep your cards close to your chest. It's
I think that's what I mean though. So, I mean, I liked it, and I liked that they added in that card mechanic which you had to use to sort of interact with things as well.
I mean, that was the whole Nitro side of things. Like, it kicked it into Nitro when the cards came out in round 2.
Yeah. No, I know. I like that side of things. I think it really just was that whether there were saboteurs on the ship or just inept sailors, like, the ship's going to sink either way, right? That's kind of what I didn't get.
Once as an inept sailor, though, I did make it all the way to Australia.
Oh, you can actually hit land?
Yes.
I'm surprised they put that in.
Why wouldn't they?
Well, just because, like I said, the boat's going to sink 99% of the time, I would imagine.
Yeah, but the fact that we made it, true. The saboteurs just jumped out very early on, and I don't think the saboteur AI works as well as like
as the inept sailor. Well, I mean, it would make sense that the inept sailor AI would work a lot better because it's just make a dumb computer, rather than actually doing anything intelligent.
I mean, one of the saboteurs just kept on sabotaging the same thing, but it wasn't a mission critical thing. So it was like, you keep doing that then, and I'll break the engine and fix the engine, break the engine and fix the engine every now and again.
Yeah. It was brave for them, I feel like, to they reached for the sky, and I don't know that they quite hit it, but I was impressed with what they did. Again, in a weekend,
Yeah. I think that was a 4-person team though. Had a lot of good art assets, and they were all brand new.
Yeah,
it wasn't an asset flip.
No. One I really liked was Armored Virus.
Really? Okay.
So we played a bit of this one. It was like I thought it was
screen. I thought it was very similar to the STD one, like in the fact that they came up with the weird names of the viruses as well.
Yeah, but that played out. I mean, the gameplay was so different. Like this one. This one was
this is more of a.
This one was the single screen competitive thing where you're having to like breed the different areas of viruses and kind of have them, give them the right resources to grow and overtake the other person. But, the ability then to add technology into it. So you did have these layers of armor and different, ways of overtaking the enemy virus. I don't know. I thought that was... I think probably because I've messed around with cellular automata before, and that it was obviously using that in the way that the virus was growing and spreading.
I kind of found a lot of the gameplay, I mean, if you can really call it gameplay, given that it was just a match 3 for half of it, it was just like almost Dr. Mario-esque. Like, at least that's what it felt like. But you could see, obviously, you had your garden of viruses at the top, and that was determining, which colours you were going to get next, and then what you could send across as an antivirus sort of thing. Or
look, I think it definitely it took some inspiration from Dr. Mario. I think they kind of looked at Dr. Mario and said, "Oh, we can improve this and like improve on with multiplayer and stuff."
Yeah,
but. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they did well. They took it beyond, and certainly, getting those kind of wildcard technology drops in there really did mix things up a lot and could really change. If you used it correctly, if you used it right, the laser armor could really turn the tide of the match.
Oh yeah. I've got to say that was actually kind of cool that you could actually choose certain colors depending on. Viruses. You could choose which virus you wanted to protect at this stage because you could see what they were building up in their garden to attack you.
Well, that's it, and just really having to understand the way that the different coloured viruses would spread. Yeah. A particular, like that the blue virus spread faster in the presence of yellow, and so, you had to balance that up. If they had too much yellow, the blue's just going to be automatically, wiped out before it can grow. But if you get that balance right, then that blue's going to really spread and spread quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, that is actually pretty cool. Now I think about it as like there was a lot of depth for something made in a weekend. Like sometimes you wonder whether they started early. Like...
I think with this one, I think they just quickly came up with, and maybe they had planned this bit earlier, but I think they knew early on what their types were going to be. Well, and it helps that everyone got the theme a bit early this year, but they knew what their virus types were going to be. They figured out how they were going to react to each other, and then they were able to just build it and polish,
We haven't actually talked about this game. I know that we both played it. What did you think of Giant Mind Control Crusade?
I liked that you controlled a giant floating head.
Yes.
Just kind of floating around.
Because I thought the fact that they set it in the Crusades, like, kind of felt a bit like weird that you had giants and this whole holy war happening down in the little people's land.
I mean, I thought that was an interesting
juxtaposition or duality of it.
Well, yeah, perhaps
big and small.
I don't know if that's what they were going for, but just bringing that fantasy, those fantasy style giants into the realistic kind of war that was going on. was kind of neat. It did give you that interesting difference in scale.
Yeah. And the fact that, like, if you didn't focus too much on the giant head and control it with your main character's mind enough, the fact that it would just fall out of the sky and just crush people is, you know.
Yeah, well, it was that whole concentration mechanic was really interesting.
Yeah.
That you had to make sure that you had enough of your sort of concentration dedicated to the different, like, spells and actions that you had going at any time. Because, then keeping that giant head up there, you know, whatever it happened to be set to doing at the moment, whether it was giving out, like, the intimidation aura or, you know, healing your own units. If you tried to do too much other stuff, that yes, it would just drop out of the sky, potentially crushing your own units as well.
Yeah.
I thought that was fun.
Weird idea to do it in a voxel style, though.
I think it worked okay. It may have just been for ease of development as well.
Yeah, and that may just have been the art style of that like artist.
Yeah, well, that's it. You can't be too picky when you're
making something
putting
in
together a
weekend.
team in a weekend for sure. One that I know we both liked, because we're into point and click adventures, and again that they got this.
I think I know where you're
weekend
going
is
with this one.
Queen of the Prison in Space.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
this was fun. I thought it was really funny, and that's hard to do in a week. Like
It
they
is.
obviously, I think they must have had at least a dedicated writer on this.
Yeah. I did like the AI voices that they used, and we know that they used AI voices because we've used that package before.
Yeah. It was a text to speech kind of thing, but they tuned it well. They gave each character different voices, and so it makes sense. You're not going to have a fully voiced adventure game in a weekend, so
Yeah.
you know, I like that they even went to that effort of doing the text to speech.
Yeah, well, obviously that wasn't just a last minute thought, because everything was well voiced all the way through. I really like the fact that, you know, this is, you know, a good 20-minute adventure game.
Yeah, they were
set in 2 scenes.
Yeah, there was a lot that they fit into a small amount of, you know, assets. And I think this did come down to...
And it wasn't all just dialogue. You know, there was actually some
there were
puzzles in there.
Well, and the way that they changed up those scenes as the game went on really added to that. You know, they had things, you know, a bunch of stuff drop out of the ceiling at that one point, and there's like, oh, you've got a few more items now that you can use to further the story on and to solve additional puzzles. But they made sense, you know, they made sense for the scene. But yeah, I think that came down to just I think they did have a dedicated writer, and then I think they only had one artist on it, and then a programmer. So that makes sense to try to fit everything in. You know, they scoped it really well, fit everything in with a minimum of assets, essentially.
Yeah.
Played to their strengths.
Really did. Sticking with the point and click adventure, World of Platypus. that was a cool one.
Yeah, that was interesting. It was, I guess you would call it a point and click adventure, in that it was very much puzzle based in that way, like going from scene to scene and kind of exploring your area and solving the puzzles. Not a lot of dialogue.
No. Choosing when to lay the eggs, that was a fun mini game, I suppose you can call it.
Yeah.
It was weird that it was set in a museum though. Like,
yeah, were they trying to get to, like, was this a night at the museum thing where this was like a stuffed platypus that had come to life? I didn't really make that clear.
I don't know. All I know is that I love playing that little platypus, you know.
That was one thing. They got the animation on that platypus was bang on. Just worked really well with the movement scheme. really fun to control. Yeah.
It reminds me of another game that I'll bring up next. Like, you know, I won't go too much into the next game, but we'll.
Well, if it's a natural segue, that's fine. Like, give us your next game, and then I'll.
Fine. Nighttime Conundrum. That game with the assassin platypus.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. That was one of those funny things where, you know, there's nothing about the theme duality that really gives off platypus vibes, I guess, except for their sort of
the duality of an assassin and a caring mother.
In that case, yes. But I just mean the fact that there were two platypus games that we played was sort of a coincidence. But
I mean, I just love the fact that, you know, they took the whole, you know, spur that the platypus has on their back, on their hind legs, and, you know, they used that to assassinate people.
Yeah, well, that was clever, taking that sort of often little known fact of the fact that platypus is a venomous, and building that into the story of the game.
Yeah.
I did like some of the...
There was only one level, though, and that's obviously time constraints.
For the type of game that they're building, like a third-person, you know, stealth sort of thing, they did pretty well. I liked the fact that they took some inspiration from, like, Splinter Cell, and that you could, you know, do your split jump and stuff, which, you know, but only in the very narrow corridors, since you're a platypus.
Yeah, very narrow, because you're a platypus. Yeah. But the fact that you could go through, like, the air vents and that sort of stuff, and obviously, you know, they didn't want you taking out every single guard, but they had such funny animations when they died, because I don't think they were quite finished. Like I
think that, you know what,
the guards just exploded ragdoll. Like,
I think they were going for that, like, I can't remember what it's called, but like the essentially animated ragdoll, where they combine some animation with the ragdoll physics taking over, and they obviously didn't quite get it working, but it almost makes it better.
Yeah. I don't know whether I told you, but, you know, the target's, you know, on the balcony, like he always is, at exactly 12 o'clock. I managed to coax a guard over. I stung the guard behind, and he, of course, explosive T-posed right into the assassin target and pushed him into the river of acid.
Yeah, well, definitely had some good emergent kind of stuff, even if it was accidental. That worked well.
Like, it knew that the guy hit the kill plane.
Yeah,
and therefore, you know,
yeah, they'd obviously built that in pretty well.
What was cool is, for some reason, the guard didn't die. Like, he must have only been stunned. He knocked the other guy in, didn't notice that I was there, and he got blamed and fired. Like, that was the end thing with this guard.
Yep. Yeah.
So
that's funny. I wonder how they meant for that to go down. I guess just if you killed the target while the guard was around or something. That's, again, interesting emergent things come in when you build those sort of systems.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that actually reminds me of there was another assassin-based game, Contract and Ghosts.
Yes.
Which was quite clever, I thought, even if the title is a bit weird grammatically, but being an assassin that's already dead was cool, I thought. And the techniques that gave you, and the puzzle stuff that they brought into it, where, like, you could carry around the big sniper rifle, but, like, it obviously couldn't go through walls and doors with you. So, you know, you could go through the wall, you'd have to leave the rifle behind, find a way to unlock it and get it to where you need to go so you could take out your mark. That was cool. And then the fact that
was really cool.
And then the whole thing of you assassinate them, they turn into a ghost, and now it's like a stealth. Now you got to get away before they find out it was you. Yeah. And I get that's obviously the duality there of just, you know, life and death, I suppose. But also in the gameplay, the duality of sort of hunting and then being hunted, I thought worked really well.
And the weird thing is that if you got killed, then you became alive, and then you were hunted again. Like it's sort of like you got double hunted in a row.
Yeah, well, there's an interesting piece of lore that they brought in, where dying when a ghost kills another ghost, that ghost comes back to life.
Yes,
and just kind of is corporeal again and appears.
But the fact that they had King of the Hill sort of situations of how much you know, well, I say King of the Hill, but it was like your idea was to be on the hunting the least amount of time and be on the run for the most amount of time.
I was wondering what you were going at. It was like, I don't remember Hank Hill and propane in this game.
No. It's just the fact that it was a competitive sort of thing, because it was only a 2-player multiplayer split screen, so we had to actually, you know, be in the same room, which we didn't quite like. You know, we had a big Perspex shield in between us so that we weren't coughing at each other.
Yeah, that was the downside of the split screen games, this game jam. But I liked that aspect of it. And yeah, that you kind of had to, interestingly enough, stay as a ghost for the longest time.
Yes, because it was all about ghosts.
Yeah, because that was how you made your money as a contract ghost killer.
Now, I know that we had a lot of fun with this game. In the Lost Kingdom, Sailboat Blast.
This was another good multiplayer one.
Obviously, they liked the juxtaposition of having, you know, this in the Lost Kingdom sort of mysterious sort of land, but then you're just sailboating around and blasting each other with like water guns and stuff.
Yeah, it was almost like I wonder if they bought an asset pack or something of like ancient ruins and things. And then kind of just
I
use that as
wonder
the
if they
backdrop.
had enough seats to actually use that, though, because normally when you get those cheap asset packs, you got to buy one for every single member.
Look, I'm not telling tales out of school here. I'm sure they had enough seats for their asset pack. But
because I'm pretty sure that there were some last year that didn't have enough seats for some of the assets that they used.
We'll brush over the technicalities of using asset packs and game jams.
Free ones, fine. Paid ones that you got cheap out of Humble Bundles.
You sound salty about it, Trevor. Did you sell an asset pack that I wasn't aware of and people are using it?
Yes. It was a Lost Kingdom asset pack, right? No, it was a sailboat one.
It was the sailboat.
And I swear they've taken my assets and just flipped it. But no, this was so much fun because it's a couch co-op, you know, 2 to 8 players.
Yeah. I love, and you know, we obviously only managed to do 3 at a time with who we had there, but I can see how wild this went. And when you did put in the AIs, like, they didn't play that well, but you got a sense for how chaotic it could be.
Oh yeah.
I loved the way that
you had to focus on the wind. Like,
yeah, that the wind played a big part.
If you got caught in that corner and there was no wind, like,
yeah. And I like the way they visualized that. You could really tell that, like, don't get stuck in that corner because that's a dead spot right now until the wind shifts, you know. Just
and the
sort
fact
of
that
based on the little particle effects and stuff they had going on.
Well, not just the particle effects, but the awesome windsocks that they had. Like, they had windsocks all the way around. Like,
yeah, you could kind of tell wherever you were heading past which way the wind was going and that you were going to be able to get a boost, you know, going a certain direction.
What I did like is they really got the wind physics down so that in these particular mazes, as it were, you could actually close off doors, and that would allow for, you know, a breeze to continue down the corridor rather than branching off into like...
Right, yeah, you could kind of guide the wind in certain directions and change up the landscape a bit. Yeah, I did like that. I liked how when you were, like, spraying with these big water cannons that you had, that you could really shift the other people then, like, and push them into the wind the wind in a way that they didn't want to go, and they might, makes it really difficult for them to get back on track and come back around to get you. Really having to strategize like that was cool.
Yeah. I know. There was just something about, like, obviously they really wanted to put some sort of story behind why you were in the Lost Kingdom. And I think it kind of went against, like, the sailboat stuff was enough. They didn't need to explain the Lost Kingdom stuff, obviously.
Again, it's almost like they wanted to add in some lore around why they used this asset pack. Maybe it's just the only thing they had that, like, had land and trees and different things in it, and they wanted to add the variety, but they could have just had it into that background and not tried to, explain it away. Because then, like, the power-ups that came up were obviously them trying to, like, bring in some sort of, ancient spirit.
Aztec god. And,
and that kind of took away from it.
I did kind of like that Midas power where you could turn other sailboats into gold, because it meant that they'd sink, and then they had to, wait for the respawn. It was sort of like a one-shot kill,
Yeah, that was cool. I did also like the big whirlwind power-up that you could get as well, even though it was pretty unpredictable.
I thought you were going to say you liked the big whirlwind level, because that was awesome as well. Like,
well, then
you pretty much just had to continue going around in circles and, choose when to cut into the center and,
the whirlpool,
and get around a little bit faster.
That was the whirlpool level. I was talking about the power-up with the actual, tornado kind of thing.
The tornado, yep.
Which would, like, sort of really shift the wind currents in that area. So it was really unpredictable, but it could kind of change that, give a real big temporary change to the level and mess with people's directions and things. It was cool.
Yeah, that was cool. Your one next.
Yeah, I liked Small Time Tennis Tale.
I swear they took some ideas from Golf Story and
I think a bit of Stardew Valley and stuff too. Like, there was definitely some inspiration in there from it had the sort of pixel art with the sort of, I guess, relatively small characters on the screen. But the reason I say Stardew Valley is that because you were sort of building up your own tennis center and having to restore the courts and bring people in, but that it was very much this narrative kind of thing with the people in the town and that sort of thing.
It's pretty amazing how many screens they managed to get done. Like,
they're obviously
they got the 4 outside screens and the 3 internals. So that's,
I think they must have had maybe just the tile sets prepared or something, so they could just, like, build up those levels pretty quickly. Which is fine. What I liked was the way that they built the tennis stuff into the combat mechanics.
Yes,
just the way that you had to. That you could, like, lob, you could smash, you could do the different tennis moves, but that would depend on the type of creature you were attacking would have different defenses and different things.
Yeah, I mean, if you got a good bounce off the forehead of that big boss guy, remember?
Yep.
You serve basically right into his forehead, and it hits one of the wrinkles and just pops up perfectly for you to smash. If you time that right, you can keep that going and take out that boss. I love that really, really quick.
I love that kind of rally mechanic of just, if you keep that timing going, you can just get hit after hit after hit.
Yeah.
But it gets faster. Like, they obviously didn't want you to just keep it going indefinitely, but you can keep it going for a while.
I mean, no list would be complete without Heavy Pony XXX.
I mean, I don't think they managed to. That they only managed to get this one past is because it was the Dark Deep Underground Web Game Jam.
Yeah.
Like the above ground standard global Game Jam, they wouldn't have been able to upload this to the site.
No. This was actually the Triple X Jam.
Oh, was that going like simultaneously?
Yeah, simultaneously. Still using duality. I mean, and really, should we say it now that a heavy pony is really just a horse? Like,
I love that that's what you're hung up on this game. I mean, all of the horse sex in the game, fairly graphic, good physics. I will say, impressive on the physics. The hair shaders could have done with a bit of work. All the horses seem a bit shiny.
Yes. And
which kind of gave off a weird vibe.
The biggest
given the
downer
context.
about the whole thing,
the
NFTs.
Yeah, well, again, I don't think, given the controversy that Global Game Jam had, that they wouldn't have got away with that with the regular one. But I can't say I'm surprised that there were games trying to shove NFTs in there.
But, like...
But, you know... it's also
I just don't
gross.
understand their logic. I just don't understand their logic.
Well, and like, to put naughty foal titties in a game anyway, like, foals are children.
I know. But the fact that it wasn't even the heavy ponies, and yes, that is in air quotes, the heavy ponies weren't even the NFTs. It was the sex moves. It was like the signature dance moves, and you know, the weird sounds and audio. Like,
I don't think they've sold anything. Like, I don't know if what they expected. Yeah, I mean, fuck NFTs, honestly, whether they are non-fungible tokens or naughty foal titties, because it's all bad.
Yeah.
So, man, and this is the thing about a Game Jam. Like, there's so many just new, interesting ideas to play
that you never would have thought of.
That you never would have thought someone would come up with. So we had, so much choice, but so we'll keep going. We'll do a few more. The next one I had, this was a very generic name, but I was pleasantly surprised. Carnivore Realm.
Yes. As opposed to last year's game that they released, which was Vegetarian Realm. Like,
right?
I think,
yes.
I think they came up with the idea of the duality between the fact that they did vegetarian last year, so they thought, let's do carnivore this year.
Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, it was almost a Monster Hunter-y sort of thing, and I know that...
Yeah, a Monster Hunter-y thing where you play the monster. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, that's it. You had all these hunters kind of coming after you and just taking them down one by one, trying to keep as many of your body parts as possible, essentially.
Yeah, and not letting them break, and that it was all about, not letting any of those bloody aerial bastards come anywhere near you, and because once they got started,
I liked that they'd send, like, when they sent multiple hunters after you at once, and you had to really like use your kind of area attacks, and it felt like you were a monster because you're taking out and fighting off these multiples of hunters at the same time. I thought was really
one
cool.
thing that I really, really enjoyed was the fact that you could take... I mean, obviously they didn't call them palicos in this, but the little cat-like creatures that were kind of more dog-like in this, but you could just take big chomps out of them. Like...
Well, they almost... Yeah, they almost became your health potions.
They were almost popcorn.
Yeah.
You just
grab a handful of them.
Well, it was probably more closer to Pringles because once you pop, you can't stop.
Yeah, well, they reminded me...
I certainly couldn't stop eating those.
I think maybe it was the facial expression, but they kind of reminded me of, like, the... is it the Porgs in Last Jedi?
Yes.
I think it was just the way they kind of reacted and would run around. Yeah, when you try to grab them and stuff. But I liked that little aspect of it. Again, the whole carnivore thing. Like, that's just the way you'd regenerate. Yeah, the voiceovers were really good.
Yummy.
Yummy. Double yummy.
That was my favorite. Like, every time
was very
cracked me
arcadey.
up. It was like,
Yeah.
yummy. I swear they must have done like 15 different yummies and then
Just randomized between them.
randomly
Yeah.
chose which one.
I definitely had a favorite. It was the one that kind of had a little bit of a trill, almost yummy. Like they kind of like really extended it out.
I really like the question mark one of yummy.
Yeah, I think they obviously just had a lot of fun with it.
It was like, was that yummy? And you could really tell that the monster was thinking at that second. Did I go
I think
one
they did
too
shift
many?
the expression, the fonts, like the facial. They just had some just. There was some good 3D like animators on that team, throwing those different morph targets and blend shapes to really shift up the expression on the face.
Yep. Could have done with a little bit more style in the world, but I understand that, there's only so much you can do, but so much default texture. Like,
yeah, I mean, again, I think they just
very
they chose where to put their focus.
The world was programmer art, but the monster was very well created. It's good that they got that one monster and at least the one hunter and dog model sort of done.
And again, for the game jam, like they obviously said, okay, we want a big focus of this to be the animation on this monster, and it paid off in that regard.
Yeah. Very, very much so. Another asset flip. Android square dancing in the bayou. Like, obviously they had that Louisiana pack that came out a little while ago on
yeah, there were definitely
Humble
some mismatched kind of themes.
Yes.
In this one. And in fact,
Robbie the robot, you can always just download from the Unity asset store. Like, that's just a free one, and this wasn't the only
honestly,
one.
I don't think we would have even bothered talking about this one if it weren't for some of the more unique mechanics.
Yes,
that they did manage to implement. I think again, was this another solo dev? I think
it might have been. Look, I love the fact that you had to keep an eye on the humidity.
Yeah.
Because if it got too humid,
they
then
did tie
your
that
Android
into
would stop sort of moving as well. So you had to make sure you got the oil can guy out there to grease him up a little bit more.
Well, it was really interesting around sort of the general stamina of the robots in that way, like the status of the robots, because you had to keep track of your power meter, your battery level as well. And if you didn't make it back to the recharge station.
I suppose what I really liked is the fact that when I was going into this, I was expecting that you'd be playing the androids, but no, you're playing the operator of this attraction, and you've got to keep them maintained. And it's that plate spinning mechanic that we quite like.
Yeah, I think that's really what made it, something special enough for us to talk about was. Yeah, it was that little bit different in that way where you had a bunch of stuff to do, and I did think the voiceover was pretty good in this one.
Yes,
I think the solo. I don't know if they might have got someone from the sound team or something to do it, but
yeah, I think they did because I think I remember hearing a guy. Just in the very background, I think I heard "yummy," just like just in the background,
bleed through
just a little bit of
the work
bleed
of
through.
The work in the other game, yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yep.
Often those guys all work together.
Yeah,
yeah, no, but the voiceover of particularly of the robots, and they did some good effect work. And I love that they threw in the like oil can kind of thing when sometimes when they'd seize up.
The fact that was just lifted directly out of Wizard of Oz, is,
I mean, a little lazy, but
cheeky, but
kind of in line with the rest of the assets in that way.
One thing that I thought they did well is they really used. I think they must have used some LUTs to just change the feel of because, when it got to nighttime and it had that kind of greeny blue wash over it, and the real bloom on the lights on the strings in between the you had the town square with the bayou sort of in the background and all this sort of stuff, sort of like that weird top-down view. But just the string lights and just the feeling of the crowd starting to gather and watch.
Yeah,
these androids square dancing.
Yeah, I sort of, in this one, didn't really pay attention to what, like, technically they might have done to achieve it, but I did notice it definitely captured the mood, like you're saying. Like, they did a good job of sort of... and again, the sound team, obviously played a big part of it there with some of the background noise and stuff, but...
background noise was great. It could have done without all the, what felt like 30 seconds of banjo on repeat.
Yeah, I think... again, game jams, so we don't want to be too harsh, but it sounds
30 seconds. Come on, just give me a minute.
Well, I think they probably had a composer who helped them put that together, and they were probably working on a ton of other projects. But yes, I agree that got pretty annoying.
Yes. Let's do one quick last one each. Tell me what you loved about it.
All right. Well, I really loved American Techno Empire. It was unfinished, definitely, but trying to make like an Empire Builder tycoon sort of game in a game jam is just, I have to give it props for that. And then the fact that with the techno aspect and building these clubs and discos and things, the way that they had all the lighting set up, and that, you really felt like as you develop these different districts, like the way they'd light up, you could really feel what sort of clubs you were putting in different places and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I really liked that a lot. But yeah, it was pretty buggy. It was unfinished. But I'd love to see him develop it into something more.
Yeah. Especially, there's been some great games that have come out of game jams and that sort of stuff.
Oh, yeah. I feel like that could be the start of something popular.
Yeah. And my last one for today, how can I go without saying Ultra-Violent Mall Rally?
I think this was... So a lot of these were more obscure. I think this one definitely got a bit of attention in the last couple of days.
It was crazy. Like, yes, there's a rally going on in the mall. Yes, it's ultra-violent because it's kind of like Carmageddon. But the fact that you play just a regular old person walking around a mall, going in and buying stuff and keeping out of the way of the violent rally and trying to be the last person alive. Or to at least stay alive.
It definitely had... Look, it was definitely trying to say something about capitalism while, the rest of the world's going to shit. People are still buying stuff, making that very obvious. And I think that's why it's getting this attention as well. I think that's it was trying for some sort of lofty ideals in that.
They really shouldn't have left the push mechanic and all the weapons in the basement then.
Yeah, the fact that you were kind of able to choose then to take part in the violence, and it was they say ultra-violent, they went all the way with the ultra-violence. And I feel like they could have got their message across without that, and I think that's part of why it's become so controversial. And maybe that's what they intended, I don't know.
I saw one of the guys on YouTube playing the game, and they were up the very top, overlooking the first part of the racetrack, and they pushed this young father off the balcony, and it's slow motioned as the guy falls down, hits. They go in close on the rally car as it comes in, and you see the head hit the windshield and sort of distort the face. God. It was Really well
Yeah.
done. Like, I mean, the fact that they used Unreal metahumans, like, that, it looked like real people.
It
like,
was well made, and it definitely like pushed the Unreal Engine and the UE5, build that's out at the moment to its limits. I think there must have been some skilled, like some.
I swear they've
actual devs
they've
on
gone
that
and done
team.
a whole heap of photogrammetry first. They knew what they wanted to do because
Well, and I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there with like the Quixel scans and stuff that you can get access to. So I think
that mall was like, it was too perfect. It felt real.
yeah, I don't think they built that mall in the weekend.
I think it was already built, and
Okay.
they've been building it for a while, and they just
Maybe this was their way to like get kind of a sneak preview out there of something, or just maybe reusing stuff they're using for some different game. Even could be the case, but
yeah, it's definitely big on the underground game jam because it's super violent. Not usually acceptable.
yeah, I think there are a lot of people out there playing it for kind of the wrong reasons in that way.
Yeah.
Like there were definitely, like I said, sort of the ideals of what the game was trying to say, but as part of that, they sort of let you be the worst you can be and really take part in all that ultra violence and not really get the message. And a lot of people are playing it just for that reason.
Yeah, but then there's the opposite side, which people are doing the ultra capitalist runs now, where they're going around and trying to buy every single thing within the thing because of course you can just go up and steal people's credit cards. So you can just go and like buy everything. If you steal enough credit cards, you can basically buy everything in the mall.
Yeah, and I mean that's essentially the goal of the game. But yes, I think just then running it as a game like that, trying to do a run, really misses the point again of. But
Yeah,
I mean that's the game industry for you.
yeah.
Anyway, it was one of the better game jams we've taken part of, I think.
We spent a lot of time playtesting. I mean, obviously that's why our game was so bad that we made.
Yeah, and look out for the postmortem of that game that we made and have worked on and know what it is.
Yes. This isn't being recorded the week before.
Shh, no. It's not. The game jam's
That's
definitely
right.
happened.
This is the Sunday night, and Ben's done a really good job editing.
I got it out. We stayed up all weekend
daylight?
doing the game jam, also playing all the other games, and then I still edited the podcast. Maybe a day late. I'm not sure where we are. We're stuck in time. What's going on? What time zone? What time span am I in? Anyway, we might do another one of these next year for the game jam. We really enjoy taking part and seeing all the cool games. So if you did take part in the game jam and you want us to check out one of the game that you worked on, let us know. That'd be great.
Yeah, and we might do a real review of it.
Yeah, we might do a review of that game, some of the games from the real the above ground.
The above ground game jam. It's just
The Sunlight game jam. One that takes place in the upper world.
all I had installed was on my laptop was a Tor browser, and so therefore we had to kind of go with what we had there.
Yeah, we had to. Once we were embedded in the deep dark web, we had no choice. We just had to go with that underground game jam. Anyway,
I don't know how to switch a Tor browser to go to like, the normal.
You
web.
have to like turn the onions off or
I
something.
know, it's all layers. Like
cut up the onions.
obviously,
Turn on the tiers or something.
obviously, the deep dark web is like ogres. They're onions.
Yeah,
They've got layers.
It's like a parfait. So if you want to find us online, you can go to podchaser.com/bitstorm. Leave us a review. Tell us what you thought of this episode. Tell us about if you played some of the underground Game Jam games, tell us about them and what you thought.
Yes.
We'd love to hear from you.
If you like the music that we play at the start and end of every single episode, that song is called Mad Defiance. It's on the album Containment Failure by the band Crudust. It's available for free on their Bandcamp.
That's right. So thank you again for joining us this week on Bitstorm. I'm Ben Slinger.
I'm Trevor Scott.
I think I blacked out for the last hour, Trevor. What happened?
Yummy.